I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who gave back an engagement ring. But the truth is, I did. It wasn't supposed to happen this way. 6 months ago, when Mitchell dropped down on one knee at the vineyard where we had our very first date, I thought it was perfect. The sun was melting into the horizon, the sky painted in fire, and my favorite flowers surrounded me like some carefully arranged dream. He had even hidden a photographer in the bushes to capture the moment. The ring sparkled under the dying light, 3 months of his salary, he told me later. I cried. I laughed. I said yes. I really believed in that yes. I told everyone. Family, friends, coworkers. I plastered it across social media, where comments poured in about how lucky I was. We even started planning the wedding. For a while, everything felt like the fairy tale I had imagined. And then, the fairy tale cracked. It was just another dinner with friends, nothing special. But Brittany, my best friend since college, started bragging about her proposal in Paris. The Eiffel Tower. A flash mob. Strangers clapping, champagne flowing, her boyfriend down on one knee in the middle of the world's most romantic city. Everyone at the table leaned in with shining eyes, like they were living the moment with her. And me? I felt small. Diminished. My vineyard sunset suddenly seemed basic. On the ride home, I sat in silence, chewing on my feelings until I couldn't anymore. Finally, I turned to Mitchell and said the words that had been burning in my chest. I've been thinking. Your proposal wasn't really that special. He nearly swerved off the road. What? I pushed forward, my voice sharper than I intended. A vineyard? Really? Brittany got Paris. Miranda's fiancé shut down Times Square. Even my sister had a hot air balloon. And me? I get a vineyard. He looked at me like I'd slapped him. Jess, you said it was perfect. You cried. You told me it was everything you wanted. I sighed, exasperated, because he wasn't hearing me. I said yes because I love you. But I need you to do it again. Properly this time. I want something that shows you really value me. I'll never forget the look on his face. His hands gripped the steering wheel so tightly I thought it might crack. You want me to propose again? Jess, we're already engaged. Not really, I said, pulling off the ring and slipping it into my purse. The diamond, his grandmother's diamond, looked dull against the cheap lining. Not until you do it right. I deserve a story I can be proud to tell. There was a long, heavy silence. I could hear only the hum of the engine and the pounding of my heart. Finally, he said, almost too quietly, you're right. You deserve better. For a moment, I felt relief. Like he understood. He even managed a faint smile. I thought maybe, just maybe, this was going to work out. Good, I said softly, touching his hand. I knew you'd understand. Maybe somewhere tropical? Or you could rent out a stadium. I laughed, half joking, half dreaming. Something big. Something memorable. He didn't laugh with me. His eyes stayed locked on the road, distant. That night, while I stayed up scrolling through Pinterest boards of elaborate proposals, skywriting, orchestras, firework displays, he was quiet. Too quiet. He nodded at my suggestions, but I could tell his mind was elsewhere. I assumed he was planning, making calls, maybe already building the surprise. I didn't realize then that something in him had shifted. The next few days were a blur of hints and excitement on my end. I sent him videos of the most extravagant proposals I could find. I told my mom, who immediately asked if she should fly in for the big moment. I told my sisters, who squealed like children at Christmas. And Mitchell? He smiled in that tired way of his and said, tell her to wait. I wanted to be a surprise. I thought I knew what that meant. I thought he was cooking up something incredible, something that would blow every other proposal out of the water. But as I sat across from him, sipping coffee, watching him scroll absently on his phone while I babbled about skywriting and flash mobs, I couldn't shake the faint unease stirring in my gut. He wasn't excited. He wasn't glowing the way I was. There was something behind his eyes I couldn't name yet. I should have known. Because what he was planning wasn't a proposal at all. It was something far, far worse. The first time I realized something was off was when he stopped looking at me the same way. It was subtle at first. Instead of his usual warmth, his eyes carried this distance. like he was studying me, weighing me. At night, when I curled up next to him, he no longer pulled me closer. Instead, he turned away, his breathing heavy, deliberate, like he was trying to build a wall I couldn't climb. Still, I convinced myself it was stress. Work. Finances. The pressure of planning something extravagant for me. After all, I had asked a lot. And then the whispers began. It was at brunch with my mother. She looked at me with that polite, worried smile and said, "Jessica, darling, I heard Mitchell's been reconsidering things." My fork froze halfway to my mouth. Reconsidering? She shrugged, trying to play it off. Oh, you know how small towns are. People talk. I'm sure it's nothing. But it didn't feel like nothing. That night, I confronted him in the kitchen. He was standing by the counter, scrolling through his phone, his face lit by the blue glow of the screen. Are you having second thoughts about us?" I asked, my voice trembling despite my attempt to sound calm. He looked up, startled, and for the briefest moment, just a flicker, I saw guilt cross his face. Then he shook his head. "Of course not." But his voice lacked conviction. "Mitchell," I whispered, clutching the counter like it might hold me up. "Tell me the truth." He set his phone down, rubbed his temples, and sighed. "You asked me to repropose, Jess. Do you even understand what you're saying? You're not just asking for a moment. You're asking me to pretend that the most meaningful day of my life wasn't enough. That what I gave you, my heart, my family's ring, wasn't enough." His words stung, but I pushed back. "I didn't mean it like that. I need something special. Something that proves I matter to you." The silence that followed was suffocating. He stared at me for so long I thought he might scream. Instead, he just said, "Maybe you don't understand what matters." And with that, he walked out of the kitchen. From that night on, I felt him slipping further away. He stayed later at work. He answered me with one-word replies. He avoided conversations about the wedding entirely. Then came the ring. One morning, I opened the little velvet box I had tucked away in my dresser drawer, the box that once held the symbol of our promise. Only it was gone. The drawer was empty. Panic surged through me. I tore the room apart, searching under clothes, inside shoes, behind books. Nothing. When he came home, I confronted him, breathless and furious. "Where is it?" "Where's what?" "Don't play dumb, Mitchell." "The ring. You took it." He didn't deny it. He just stared at me with those hollow eyes and said, "I don't think you should keep something that doesn't mean anything to you." My chest tightened like it might cave in. "Doesn't mean anything?" "That ring was everything." "No," he said coldly. "It wasn't. You made that clear." I broke then. Tears poured down my face as I begged him to understand. "Mitchell, I love you. I just wanted more. I wanted the kind of story people dream about." But he didn't move. Didn't touch me. Didn't soften. He just said, "Maybe you should ask yourself why you care more about a story than the person standing in front of you." That night, he slept on the couch. I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, my mind a storm of fear and denial. Had I ruined everything? Was it really so wrong to want something extraordinary? The days blurred together after that. He grew colder. I grew more desperate. I tried cooking his favorite meals, surprising him with little gifts, even planning a weekend getaway. But nothing worked. He remained distant, a shadow of the man who once promised me forever. And then, one Friday evening, he dropped the bomb. We were sitting in silence at the dinner table, the air thick with all the words we weren't saying. Finally, he set down his fork, looked me in the eye, and said, "Jess, I think we need to take a break." The world stopped spinning. My ears rang. My chest tightened until I could barely breathe. "A break?" I choked out. "From what?" "From me?" He nodded slowly. "From us. From all of this. I don't know if I can give you what you're looking for." I wanted to scream, to throw the plates against the wall, to shake him until he saw me again. But all I could do was whisper, "But you're my everything." His eyes softened for a fleeting second, then hardened again. "I'm sorry." And just like that, he stood up and left the table, leaving me in the ruins of a life I thought was ours. I didn't know it then, but that break wasn't really a break at all. It was the beginning of the end. People always talk about heartbreak like it's some sharp, clean cut. But mine wasn't like that. Mine was slow, jagged, messy. When Mitchell said we needed a break, I thought it meant a few days. A week, maybe. Something temporary, something survivable. I clung to that word, break, like a lifeline, convincing myself it wasn't the end. That he'd miss me, realize his mistake, and come back. But days turned into weeks. Weeks into a month. And the silence between us grew heavier, suffocating. I called. Sometimes he'd answer, sometimes he wouldn't. When he did, his voice was clipped, polite, like I was a stranger. Once, he said he was busy. Another time, he said he was tired. Eventually, he stopped picking up at all. I left messages. Dozens. Then I stopped, humiliated by the sound of my own desperation. The nights were the worst. Lying in our bed alone, the empty space beside me was like a wound that wouldn't close. I buried my face in his pillow just to catch the faint trace of his cologne. I couldn't eat. I couldn't focus. Friends tried to pull me out, take me to brunch, distract me with shopping or movies, but I always ended up drifting back to him, to us, to the life that had slipped through my fingers. And then came the whispers again. This time, not from my mother, but from Brittany. She showed up at my apartment one Saturday, her expression strange, sympathy mixed with hesitation. She sat on the couch, twisting her hands, and finally blurted it out. "Jess." I saw him. I froze. Saw who? Mitchell. At the marina. With someone. My stomach dropped. Someone. A woman. The room spun. My vision blurred. "You're lying." She shook her head, her eyes brimming with pity. I wish I was. I wanted to scream at her, to throw her out, to call her a liar and cling to the fantasy that he was still mine. But deep down I knew. I had seen it in his distance, in his silence, in the way he avoided my eyes. Still, I couldn't stop myself. I had to know. So the next day, I drove to the marina. My heart pounded against my ribs, my palms slick on the steering wheel. And there he was. Mitchell. Laughing. Smiling. Holding hands with a woman I had never seen before. She was beautiful. Effortlessly so. Long dark hair, sun-kissed skin, the kind of smile that glowed without trying. She looked like the kind of woman men wrote songs about. And me? I sat in my car, invisible, watching the man who once promised me forever give his smile, my smile, to someone else. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't move. I couldn't process the knife twisting deeper and deeper into my chest. Finally, I started the car and drove away, sobbing so hard I could barely see the road. That night, I stared at myself in the mirror for hours. My mascara smudged, my eyes swollen, my face pale and unfamiliar. I whispered over and over, he loved me. He chose me. He promised me. But promises don't matter when they've already been broken. In the days that followed, I spiraled. I texted him long, pleading messages that went unanswered. I called until my number was blocked. I drove by his place once, just to see if her car was there. It was. I hated myself for it. I hated the version of me I had become, desperate, pathetic, clinging to scraps of a man who clearly didn't want me anymore. And yet, despite everything, I couldn't let go. One night, after too many glasses of wine, I sat down and wrote him a letter. 10 pages of raw, bleeding heart. I poured everything into it, the memories of our first kiss, the laughter we shared, the dreams we painted together. I begged him to remember who we were, who I was. I never sent it. I couldn't. The thought of him reading it and not caring was more unbearable than the silence. Instead, I shoved it into a drawer, buried under old journals and birthday cards. But the words still haunted me, echoing in my mind when the nights grew too quiet. The wedding dress I had bought months ago hung in the back of my closet, mocking me. I couldn't bring myself to return it. I couldn't even unzip the garment bag. It just hung there, heavy and lifeless, like a ghost of the future I'd lost. And then, just when I thought I couldn't sink any lower, Mitchell called. My phone lit up with his name, and for a moment, my heart soared. Maybe he missed me. Maybe he realized she wasn't me. Maybe he was ready to come home. I answered on the first ring. "Mitchell." His voice was steady. Cold. Too steady. Jess, we need to talk. My throat went dry. About us. No. About the ring. The ring. His grandmother's ring. The one he had taken back. The one that once symbolized everything. What about it? I whispered. There was a pause, heavy and deliberate. Then he said the words that shattered what little hope I had left. I gave it to someone else. I gave it to someone else. Those 5 words crushed me more than any silence, more than any fight, more than watching him with her at the marina. Because the ring wasn't just a ring, it was ours. It was the symbol of every promise, every laugh, every whispered dream we shared. His grandmother's ring. The one he swore would be mine forever. And now it was on another woman's hand. I couldn't speak. I couldn't breathe. My phone trembled in my hand as his words sank in. Finally, I forced out, Mitchell, how could you? He didn't yell. He didn't cry. His voice was calm, almost gentle. Because you gave it back, Jess. You told me it didn't mean enough. And someone else, she values it. She. My voice cracked. You mean her? The woman from the marina. Silence. And that silence was my answer. I collapsed onto the floor, my knees giving out. I pressed the phone to my ear like I could somehow pull him back through the line. Mitchell, please, it was a mistake. I didn't mean it. I was stupid. I was insecure. I thought I needed more, but I don't. I just need you. For a moment, I thought I heard his breath hitch. But then he said softly, it's too late, Jess. And the line went dead. That was the night I finally broke. I cried until my body physically couldn't anymore. My chest hurt, my throat burned, my eyes swelled shut. I had nothing left in me. The next morning, I stared at my reflection, pale skin, hollow eyes, a ghost of the woman I used to be. I whispered to myself, he gave it to her. He gave everything to her. Days passed in a fog. I deleted our photos from my phone but couldn't bring myself to erase them from my laptop. His toothbrush still sat by the sink, mocking me. The coffee mug he used every morning still sat in the cupboard, untouched. I wanted to throw it all away, but some pathetic part of me held on. Because throwing it away meant admitting it was really over. And then, the universe twisted the knife even deeper. One evening, as I scrolled mindlessly through social media, a post stopped me cold. A photograph, her hand, delicate, manicured, with my ring glittering on her finger. The caption read, he asked. I said yes. Forever starts now. The comments were filled with congratulations, heart emojis, people gushing about how perfect they were together. And there it was, Mitchell, smiling beside her, looking at her the way he once looked at me. I dropped my phone. I couldn't breathe. My chest tightened until I thought I might actually die. That night, I didn't sleep. I paced my apartment, screaming into pillows, ripping at my hair, begging the universe to undo what had been done. But morning came anyway, and with it, the cruel truth. He was hers now. For weeks, I lived like a ghost. Going through the motions, plastering on fake smiles at work, dodging questions from friends. My mother begged me to move on. Brittany tried to take me out, distract me, but nothing worked. Everywhere I went, I saw him. Heard him. Felt him. I kept asking myself, how did I lose him? Was it really just the proposal? Or was I never enough to begin with? But deep down, I knew the truth. I had pushed him away. I had taken something pure and made it conditional. I had treated his love like it needed fireworks and flash mobs to be real. And in doing so, I had destroyed it. The final blow came when I saw them together in person. It was at the farmer's market. I was holding a basket of peaches when I heard his laugh, that familiar, low rumble that used to make my stomach flip. I turned, and there they were. Hand in hand. Smiling. She leaned into him. He kissed her forehead. And I swear the world tilted on its axis. He saw me. Our eyes met. For a split second, something flickered in his gaze, regret, maybe. Or pity. But he didn't say a word. He just tightened his hand around hers and walked away. That was when I finally understood. There was no fixing this. No second chance. No dramatic reunion. Mitchell was gone. And I had no one to blame but myself. So I went home. I pulled out the wedding dress still hanging in my closet. I unzipped the garment bag for the first time since everything fell apart. I stared at it, white, flawless, untouched, a symbol of a future that would never be. And then, with shaking hands, I carried it to the dumpster behind my building. I threw it in. I watched it sink under garbage bags and wilted flowers. I cried, but I also felt something else. A strange, hollow kind of release. Because sometimes, love doesn't end with a clean break or a happy ending. Sometimes it ends in ashes, in lessons you wish you'd learned too late. I lost the man I loved. I lost the future I dreamed of. But maybe, just maybe, I hadn't lost myself completely. And as I walked back to my empty apartment, wiping my tears, I whispered into the evening air. This is where my story really begins.